everybody! Today's video is going to be part of my problem solution or common makeup problems video series. You guys seem to really be enjoying these videos, so that is awesome. Don't forget to leave your requests for more of these videos in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to include them in the next one. So this one's going to be all about how to cover a blemish or a pimple or acne mark, whatever you might have that you're trying to cover up, or a dark spot. It can be such a pain sometimes when you are trying to cover up a blemish because sometimes it can make it look worse, especially if it starts to look cakey or it might look a little gray or like you just have too much product or it's still showing through. So I've mastered the perfect way for me to cover them personally that I like to do, so be sure to leave me your tips if you have any in the comments down below. I'd love to hear. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm first going to start out with my Paula's Choice Resist Moisturizer. This is actually a mattifying moisturizer. You want to make sure your skin is hydrated because you don't want that area to look dry or anything. I'm going to apply a little bit of the Mario Badescu Drying Cream. This is actually a cream spot treatment. There's some other drugstore ones, but this one I found works the best because it has a little bit of tint to it. So it's going to help conceal that area before you apply your product, which is great, especially if you don't plan on wearing makeup. This is a great little thing to just add over your blemish that you have. That way it's going to conceal it and also help treat it. So the first thing I'm going to do is spray my primer water. I've been featuring this in all of these videos because I love it so much, but you can use any face primer that you have. I've always linked you guys to some alternative products when they are more pricey products like this, so that will be on the blog post with this video. So then I'm just going to apply my foundation, and this really impacts covering up blemishes like this because it definitely has some good coverage. This is the CoverGirl Outlast Stay Fabulous 3-in-1 foundation. This is supposed to also have a concealer in it, so this is very long wearing, which is awesome, and it just has some great coverage. This is meant to dry to a matte finish, so that helps a lot too in this process. I'm also using the e.l.f. Flawless Face Brush. I think that's what it's called, but this is my favorite foundation brush. It's been working awesome. So whenever I go over the area that needs more coverage, I like to stipple it rather than swirl or drag the foundation, so I just kind of stamp it onto my skin. I found this brush works the best for coverage too, opposed to like a beauty blender that tends to absorb products so you get less coverage and more of a natural finish. So I do a very thin layer of this, and then I go back over it with a little bit more product. So that's really the secret to avoiding a cakey look, is just very thin layers. So after my foundation, that's when I want to go in with a little bit of powder. I've already done my under eye concealer and everything, so now I'm going in with my e.l.f. Perfect Finish HD powder. This is a very finely milled powder because it is meant to give you that HD finish. I just use an e.l.f. face brush to apply this all over my face. You want to make sure again that you are just stamping over that area and not dragging so you don't remove any of the product. So I know this is a little bit of a backwards order. You usually want to apply all your cream products first and then the powder, but I'm actually doing it a little bit different for this to allow for the concealer to better stick to the face. Whenever you have a blemish, sometimes it seems like no matter how much concealer you apply, it just wipes away. So this is how I get it to stick. I apply the powder first, and then I go in with the tiniest bit of concealer. Now at this point my foundation has already given it some good coverage, so I just need a little bit more because it still has that kind of gray look underneath of my foundation. So I'm using the Coastal Scents Camouflage Concealer Palette. Now you definitely don't need a palette this large, but I self-tan so my skin tone varies, so I really like to mix and match these. I'm also using this Coastal Scents little pointed concealer brush. This works excellent. You want to make sure your concealer brush is made of synthetic hairs, and this one is nice because it's pointed, so I can just kind of press it into just the areas where I need it. So I'm just going to be picking this up and dabbing it over top. I'm using the tiniest bit. A little goes a long way, especially with this concealer. It's really great too because it's affordable. You get so many different colors and it is super full coverage. I mean, this is like max. It's really helpful though when the concealer is this really creamy, thick texture. Not too thick or anything. Liquid concealers though, I find don't work as well on covering blemishes because they are so liquidy. So this is going to help grab onto it. You just want to use the tiniest bit though, that way it doesn't end up looking cakey. So now I'm just going to use whatever is left over on my kabuki brush, or you could pick up just a tiny bit more powder and go back over. You want to make sure you set that cream product again so it does not move anywhere. So once I'm finished with all of my face makeup, I just spritz some more of the Smashbox primer water. This is a setting spray. You don't have to do this step, but this just helps lock everything in place to where it's not going to budge and it's going to stay like that. This also helps too if it starts to get a little bit cakey. You can spritz some setting spray on top and it just makes it look refreshed again. That is it on how I typically cover up blemishes. Again, you want to be very mindful of it looking cakey, so you want to be very thin on your layers and just use a very sparse or very light hand when you're doing this. Now you might be wondering how you can apply your bronzer and your blush over top, so that's going to be in the next video of this series. It's going to be all about how to avoid muddy looking bronzer or contour or patchy looking blush and stuff, so that's going to be in that video, so make sure you check that out. After this one, I'll have it posted up within the next couple of days. So I'm going to have a little recap of all of these tips that I mentioned, and all of the products that I mentioned will be linked on the blog post that goes with this video, and that is the first link in the description box down below. I'm also going to have alternative to these products if you don't want to spend the money on them, although I highly recommend them because they will last you a long time. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to leave me your tips in the comments down below and future video requests that you want to see from me. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you in my next one. Bye everyone. This one's going to be all about how to avoid overdoing your eyebrows. I see this all the time where people just are overdoing it with their brows. You want your brows to look natural but also defined at the